So this is about how to do a attic conversion on an existing property. So you see I've done a little bit of Blue Peter here, and I've created my ground floor and my first floor already. So just I'll show you my little drawing there. Whoops, there we go. So I've just done a little detached house, the garage. I've got a bit of flooring in there just to make my 3D look nicer. Of course, if you're doing this for an existing property, you don't necessarily need to put the floors in, but I'm a bit of a completionist. I like things to be correct. Though I've just noticed I'm lacking a window in that room there, but don't worry about little things like that. Okay, so to do my attic, the first thing I need to do is actually create some stairs on my first floor so that I know where the opening is going to be upstairs. Plus also this will give us a cost. You'll notice that at the moment I have an estimate value of £0, which of course is correct because everything we have here is existing. So to create my stairs, I'm going to zoom in on my first floor. Now I've already worked out that what I'm going to do is put my stairs above the staircase that's from the ground floor for the first floor. So this is my ground floor staircase. What's happened when I've created this next level is given me a representation of this, which shows me where the floor layout goes. And if I go to the 3D model, you can see here that we have a single staircase coming up. Okay, but I've wanted to have this on there because it gives me a layout. So I've got this doorway here, and I want to have my staircase starting going up to the attic, sort of over this existing staircase, obviously slightly clear of this doorway into this room. So I'm going to start off actually by giving myself a construction line about there. So that's about where I want my stairs to start. And now obviously this is quite busy, so I'm going to go to my layer tab, and I'm going to hide my floor. Okay, and my little symbol here, the representing my existing staircase, has now done its job. So I'm just going to select that and delete those bits of existing staircase because I don't need them. Okay, and now I'm ready to get started. So the first thing we want to do off the architectural menu is, of course, give ourselves a costed staircase. Now I'm just going to do a straight flight of stairs for this job. I'm going to go with a timber apron. My floor to ceiling height, I'm going to go with 2600. So, sorry, not floor to ceiling, it's floor to floor. So I just click in this box. So I've got, in this house, I've got a 2400 floor to ceiling. And of course, we're going to be putting some joists in the upstairs. So this height is going to go up to around 2600. It might be slightly higher, but for today's purposes, we're going to use 2600. I'm going to go with 13 risers, a going length of 250. 900 wide stairs, etc. And you can put in all things like handrail and balustrade details, etc. So for example, we would probably have sloping balustrade on one side, or whether or not you're going to construct walls to the underside of the staircase. I'm going to say none to this because obviously there's underneath this staircase is where people are walking up from below. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to click on next. This has got a staircase allowance price, because obviously staircases can be quite bespoke. This is a typical sort of price. If you know better, feel free to adjust it. Once you're happy with that, click on finish, and I'm now ready to position my staircase. So first I'm going to place the top of my landing, and I'm going to have it against this wall. That's the bottom of my staircase there. Okay, now you'll notice the symbol has got the balustrade on that side. It's got to be one side or the other. Let's put it on the left hand side. For costing purposes, it'll obviously be correct. Okay, now we've got options for plastering the underside and painting. If you want to, you can fill those figures in. If we go to our 3D model now, we will see that we now have a staircase running up for our attic, and you see we're now starting to build a price. Okay, so I don't need my construction line anymore, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm just going to switch my flooring layer back on, because when I get to the attic I'm going to draw some flooring, and I'm going to need to be able to see it. So I'm just going to click that box. My flooring comes back for my first floor. Not really relevant, but we'll use it in a minute. So I've got a ground floor level, and I've got a first floor level, which is building up my 3D. I now need to make an attic level, because when you draw an attic, you don't draw it on top of one of the existing levels, because if you do that, if you draw, say, an upstand or stud wall upstairs, it will actually project down to the bottom of the level below. So if I did draw an attic roof on here and put an upstand on, that upstand would probably be 3 meters high instead of being, say, 1 meter high or something like that, because it will add the height of the floor below. So we need to create what we call a zero height level, which is where we have a shape of brickwork, but it has no thickness. But we need that to put the roof on, because then when we put in the floors and the walls in that zero height level, they will actually start at that level. It will become a bit more obvious in a moment when I show you the level tool. So I'm going to click on this level box here, which is the level here. As you can see, this is the second level, which has a base height of 2625 and a level height of 2400. So when I click on this, I get a copy option, and the window at the bottom says I can select a reference point, so I could choose a reference point like this, or I can just press my right arrow, which will create me a level to the right hand side. But before doing so, just need to fill in a few details. So I need to give this level a name, so I'm going to call it my attic. You'll see that the base height is 5025, which is 2625 plus 2400. Okay, and it wants to know what the level height is for the walls on this level. Now I'm going to set them to 0, thus creating our zero height level. And I'm also going to tell it that the configuration is an attic, and what that does is it gets rid of any duplication of doors, windows, etc., and it also ignores all internal walls. So essentially it just gives you a wafer thin outline of the outside masonry shell, because that's what we need to create our roof. This shows what's been selected, so you can see by using the attic it's deselected the vast majority of the items in here, because we obviously don't want to duplicate the walls upstairs in the attic area. You see that it's going to copy my staircase, but it's going to copy it as a symbol, so it will duplicate it visibly, but it won't duplicate it for costing purposes. Okay, so that's now created our third level. And if we go back to our 3D model, you'll see that it's made no difference. We still have a ground floor staircase, our new attic staircase. But we're now ready to start drawing on this level here, which means if I draw an upstand on this level, or if I draw a stud wall on this level, it will start on this level. So it will have a base height of 5025. Whereas if I drew a stud wall in an attic on this level, it would come up from the floor below, which of course would be incorrect. Right, so to draw an attic, we have a very clever tool which does an awful lot of the work for you. So we start off by going to the Attics drop down on the top menu, and we have a tool for doing an attic conversion. That's rather handy. I click on this, and we're now given several specifications. Essentially, you've got 2 specifications for a cut roof, or an existing cut roof, and 2 specifications for an existing truss roof. One of the specifications will replace the existing ceiling, and the other one is where you're going to retain the existing ceiling. So obviously, depending on the job, sometimes you might take the ceiling down to put all brand new in, sometimes you may go over the top. For today's purposes, I'm going to say that I'm going to have a cut roof, and that I'm going to retain my existing ceiling. So I'm going to use this second option here. Now the other thing is that in the default specification for an attic conversion, it uses a structural upstand, which is one that you can hang the joists off the side of. For today's demo, I'm going to change this to do a normal upstand and then put steels in. Okay, just shows a bit more detail. So to change that, I'm going to click on Review Specification, which allows me to look inside the specification for this attic conversion. This shows me all the various elements that could be in the attic conversion, and the bit I'm after here is my upstand. So at the moment I've got one of these structural upstands, and I'm going to swap this, and I'm going to change from a structural upstand to just a standard upstand. I'm going to go with one that's the same sort of U value, so that one's a 0.2, so I'm going to go with here. So here's a standard upstand with a 0.2 U value. Select that, and that's now swapped it out in the specification. I'm happy with everything else, so I'm just going to click on Next. I then need to tell it what is the shape of the existing roof. So for simplicity, I'm just going to go with a nice apex roof for this job. It needs to know what the pitch of the existing roof is, what your overhangs are, so let's change these to a more typical 150. It also asks about how the floor joists are related to the wall plate. Now, in my job coming up, that we're going to do tonight, I'm going to do steels, and I'm going to be assuming that we're going to be inserting the joists in between the steels, so in essence, my joists will be at wall plate height. If you're going to be putting steels in and putting the joists over the steels, then you would more likely sit with the floor joists sit above wall plate option like this. And of course, in some houses, you have this option, where the floor joists sit below the wall plate. For example, some Victorian houses where you have a very high ceiling, that would probably be more relevant if you were, if you were replacing the ceiling. You could be possibly doing this to give yourself more head height in the attic area. Now, for tonight's job, I'm going to be doing the floor joists sat on the wall plate. You need to check your valley connections if that's going to be relevant. Now I'm just doing a straight apex tonight, so I'm not too fussed about that. And the other option here talks about the percentage roof covering reuse. So if you are going to be doing some dormers, quite often if you've got a dormer roof, obviously you're going to be cutting a hole into the existing roof and you're going to be taking up some existing tiles. There's a good chance you might want to reuse the existing tiles. So if you were doing that, you might do something like, say, you're going to have, say, a 90% tile reusage, assuming that most of them are good, but you might be chucking a few away. If you know the tiles are bad, you might say 75%, or if you think you're going to be using all new tiles, leave it at 0. Okay, that's only relevant if you're going to be doing things such as a new dormer into the attic conversion. And for tonight, for simplicity, I'm just going to leave that out. I'm just doing straight, nice, neat set of rooms, no dormers. Just I'm going to have some velluxes. So I'm happy with my configuration now. I will click on Finish, and I'm now ready to start drawing my attic roof. The other beauty of doing it this way is this will now draw a non-costed roof, because it's going to say that the roof already exists, so therefore it doesn't give it a price. That means I don't have to then go around setting it as non-estimated afterwards. Just the same as any roof drawing mode, you'll see that the instruction window here is asking us to click a wall that the roof is on. So I'm going to click on my wafer-thin little outline of a roof that I've made on my 0 height level. So I'm going to click on this wall. It then wants the first corner. Instruction window then wants the second corner, so this is my gable. And then the third corner for the length. Okay, that now gives me my attic roof. And what it also gives me now is all the attic roof tools on the right hand side. So if I just click on the staircase, these will disappear. You see here. If I now click on, let's say, the ridge line of my roof, all these extra items come back. So this is very similar to if you draw a wall, you get extra items for wall starters, for example. If you draw in a structural opening, you'll get extra items like weep vents. The difference is that when you draw an attic roof, your extra items list is a little bit bigger. But these are all the sort of objects you might want to put in when you're doing an attic conversion. But it's really good because it puts it all in one place for you, so it reduces thinking, which is always nice. So to start off with, I'm going to go with my upstands first, because that will go to give me a little bit of a lay of the land. So to do this, I click on the Draw Upstand button on the right hand side. This will ask me for height of my upstand, so I'm going to go with 1000 millimeters or 1 meter high. Click OK, and then the instruction window at the bottom says select an eaves line for the roof associated with the upstand. So quite simply, if I just zoom in a bit here, I'm going to click on this eaves line. Like magic, because it knows it's a 45-degree pitch and this is a roof side we've clicked on, it works out exactly where that 1 meter high upstand should be positioned. I can then click draw again, same height, and click the eaves on the other side of the house, and now it's got my second upstand. Nice and easy so far. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this option here, which is a stair opening. Because this is an existing ceiling, we obviously need to form an opening into that ceiling. So this creates a sort of cost for spoil and also some labour involved. Now I'm going to do an opening that's the full shape of this staircase. Obviously you might be going just part way because you might be putting something behind it, depending on the orientation and position of the staircase within the property. For simplicity, I'm just going to go around the stair here. So click on the draw, and then I'm just going to go around the shape of my stair. Now I'm going to stop short at the upstand here. Okay, this is a really clever little tool. Once you've drawn the first 3 points, I can press the S for square button. You may notice that on the instruction window. But what that will do is it will finish off the square. And there we go. And that has now created an opening area. And you'll see we've now started to get some costs, and that applies quite a lot of cost to that. Now the other thing I need to do, of course, is because I've gone with a non-structural upstand, we're going to need some steels here, otherwise this isn't going to last very long. So to scroll down a little bit, I've got Renovations steel beams. And I'm going to go with, I think a 203 102 by 23 might do, maybe something slightly heavier. You guys know better than me, but I'll use a 23 for this evening. And what I'll do there is I click on draw, so I'm ready to draw in the steel. And I'm going to zoom in over here because I want to have my steel actually starting in the wall. Okay, you see that's drawing it on the wrong side, so that's very simply resolved. I can either press the J key for justification on the keyboard, or I can use the justification option up here, and there we go, you see it's now sighting it underneath my upstand. And I'm just going to go across, put that into the wall on the other side. It's not quite perfect, but it's close enough, does the job. And then I'm going to go down to my other upstand, and again click on the draw button, and repeat the process. So that's my 2 steels now positioned. Okay, so steels are done. I'm now interested in getting my floor into place. So the first thing I'm actually going to do for my floor is I'm actually going to do some trimmers. So that gives me an idea of what my floor layout is going to be like. So I've got joist trimmers for a floor, so these are 200s, and I've got ceiling joist trimmers which are 150s. So for this I'm going to go with some 200 trimmers. So click the draw button, zoom over here, and again I'm just going to, one of the reasons for having the symbol of the stairs is you can see where your trimmers are going to be running from. So I'm going to want to set from steel to steel, like that. I think in a perfect world you should actually draw them twice, but for speed I'm just going to draw one. And then I've drawn one trimmer, I can go right click, previous command, and draw another trimmer. And I can go right click and draw another one. It's going to go across the end. Obviously you may be tempted to actually double up on all those, you probably should. So that gives us a trimmer layout, which means I've now got some shapes for drawing my floor joists. So again, it's all within the attic tool here. We don't need to use this top menu at all unless we were doing separate things like dormers. So everything we need for the attic conversion, the construction side of it, is in this side. So I've done my upstand, so next on my list is my attic flooring. So I can click on draw. If we were doing the entire area with no holes, which of course wouldn't really work, you could hit the F button and fill it all, but that will put joists across where the stairs are, so that's not quite the right solution. So in this case, we're going to do a polyline and draw a round shape. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and again I'm going to cheat by hitting the S button for square, which squares off my area and gives me some joists. And as you can see, I've made a right hash of that and drawn them a little bit zigzag. That's fine. I can just click on them and delete. I can right click, do add ceiling again, and this time zoom in, do it a bit more carefully. Get a bit more lined up. So I've got those in there. S for square. Hopefully it's a bit straighter. There we go. Fantastic. Okay. Now an obvious thing here is that my joists are going in the wrong direction because these do represent the joists. Very simple. I click on the joists, and you'll see that on the top menu, this button comes and I can just toggle my joist direction. So then I'm going to go steel to steel. Okay, so I want to do some more floor. So again, I can either right click and do previous command add ceiling, or I can just click on the draw button over on the right hand side. Both does exactly the same, and repeat the process. So let's zoom in and make sure I don't do this quite so badly. There you go. So I could draw all the way around, but again, I'm just going to press the S key to square that off. Next set of joists done. Again, I can click on the joists and toggle my joist direction. And of course, I need a little bit of floor in here. So I can zoom in a little bit. Draw, and again, I can go 1, 2, 3, and S for square. And this time I'm going to leave those joists going across the trimmers like that. Okay, and if we have a quick look at our 3D model, let's just go to our house here. If I go to my visibility option, let's just hide my roof. Now we can start to see our attic coming together. So you see we have our floor area. There's our opening, which we've drawn around, and there's our two little upstands. This is quite handy, so you can see where you're up to with your estimating. So let's come back to my attic tool. So to do that, again, I just click on the ridge line, or I could click on the eaves line. Basically, clicking on any of the lines of the roof brings back your extra items, and you'll see here that if I'm not on the extra items tab, you get a little orange flash down there. There you go, you see that flashing away that says items are available. So I can go to extra items, back to my list, what do I want next? So I've done my upstand, I've done my attic floor, so that's my joisted area, and then because this is an existing ceiling that we're retaining, we're not going to be drawing any more floor in this area behind the upstands. If we were doing the option where we were replacing the ceiling, we'd have had two flooring options here. We would have had an attic floor area that would of course be joists with floor and of course floorboards, and then another attic floor area which would have been remaining joists with ceiling to go underneath it, but of course no floorboards because that would be a void. Now in this case, we're just going to insulate the existing joists here behind our upstands. So again, I click on the draw button. The same as before, I go one corner, two corners, three corners, and I can press the SP button to square. And at the moment, this option actually shows it as joists. It's going to in the future actually going to change, and this will actually show as an insulation visual. So slightly misleading, but don't worry about it. And I'm going to draw another one. And this time I'm actually going to cheat, and instead of pressing doing the polyline option, I'm actually going to press the letter F to fill that area. It does the same thing. Okay. If you want to, for visual purposes, you can toggle the joist direction. As I mentioned before, there actually aren't any joists because this is purely an insulation and fitting insulation cost. Okay, so we've now got, let's just go back to our 3D model, and here you can see here's our insulated area that we've just put in. Okay, just so I'm going to just convince you that there aren't any joists there. Oops. There we go. So once I've now got my floor area fairly well sorted, and I want to start doing things like stud walls and doors and the layout of the upstairs and of course the ceiling and such like. So I'm going to go back to my layers button and I'm going to hide my floor and my floor structure just to get rid of these trimmer lines because they're very thick, just to make it a little bit easier on the eye. Our costs are still there, I've just hidden them from the visual. Okay, and if you want to put them back in, you just retick and your floor reappears. Okay, so layers is very handy for just hiding things whilst you're drawing. Quite often if you've got a lot of ceilings, floors, etc., the drawing can start to get very busy with all sorts of hatching and the such like. Just being able to hide certain elements of the job makes it a lot easier to work on. So next I want to put in some stud walls. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bedroom area to the right. I'm going to have a sort of bathroom to the left and then a sort of, I don't know, attic-y walkway storage junk area, the sort of place where people tend to put books probably, on the left hand side. So I'm going to leave my attic tools for a moment and I am going to come back up to my main menu to do some internal walls. So I want a timber stud wall. I'm going to go with 100mm stud, 400 centres insulation, both sides, plastered and decorated. And I'm going to tell it that it's an attic stud wall. And what that will do is it will work out that there's a sloping ceiling above it and it will get sliced appropriately. Click finish and now I'm ready to draw my wall. So I'm going to start with one just next to this staircase here. I'm going to tear that up to the upstand on the far side. And then I'm going to have another one, so I'll just do a right click and I can do previous command wall. Let's go, and you'll see there again, if I just zoom in, see how it's drawing the wrong side of the red line, which is fine. So again, it's just a justification option, so I can either use these arrows to do that, or I can press the J key for justification. I'll just do that on screen now. So if I press J, hopefully you can see there how the justification moves between left, right and centre. Okay, so I want this wall, as you can see here, to be drawing this side of the staircase. So I'm going to go up to the end of the stairs here. And then I'm going to go across to this wall over on the left hand side. And if you have a quick look at our 3D model, you can see how that's starting to build up. So next I want a couple of doors. So I'm going to use our door option at the top, internal doors. I'm going to go with a primed, something like a 762. One of those there will do. One 3/8 door lining set. I'm going to position it, so I'm going to position my first door about here. Obviously we've got to take into account the roof, and we'll have a look at the 3D in a second. We'll see how that fits. I'm going to position my second door, my bathroom there in the middle. That'll do nicely. And if we go to our 3D, we can have a look at that door. And you see that if we position it there, that's actually fine. We've still got some space to move, so it's quite good for positioning. If we think we might want to move this away from the staircase a bit, that's fine. I can click on this door. Let's just move it along a little bit. Let's go up to there. The 3D will refresh, and we see we've gone possibly just a little bit too far. So we might just pull that back a little bit. There we go, so we see that sort of position is fine, so that one means we've still got clearance in the room. And of course I've got the door opening this way, so it doesn't slam into the roof, or the ceiling. Okay, so that's our quick escape from the attic tool, just to put in a wall and doors. We're now going to come back to the attic tool because we have some more components to draw. So working our way down the list, we have our next item we're going to do is a coloured ceiling. Because I want to put a colour on this. You could of course have an attic where you're going to just take the vault right up to the top, but I'm going to put a colour in and I think it looks neat. So I'm going to draw my insulated coloured ceiling. It's going to ask for the height of the ceiling, so I'm going to go quite tall. I'm going to set this at 2400, it's quite high. That should still give us quite a nice fit. Click OK. It asks me to select a roof line associated with it, so we're going to click on this eaves line. Excuse me, and there we go, that's put our coloured ceiling in position. And then we'll next need our attic conversion sloping ceiling, so we need to put this area here where we're going to have our slope. So I click on my draw button. And again, I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, and press the letter S for square. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in. You might see this is quite faint, but you should see there's a very light yellow sort of hatching appeared there. It's very faint, but that's my ceiling in place on that side. And then I'm going to click on my sloping ceiling again and go draw, and go 1, 2, 3, and again I'm going to press the letter S for square to finish this off. And again, there we go, that's now hatched this side up. Done a bit of work now. I'm going to hit my save button and save that. Okay, and if we go to our 3D, we can have a look at how our ceiling looks. You'll notice that my walls are projecting through. That's just a 3D element. The actual estimated walls do chop at the ceiling quite nicely. So you can see here, this is our sloping ceiling shape. And we can do handy things in this 3D, like I can right click on that and I can hide that bit of ceiling over there to see inside. So 3D is very handy that you can do all sorts of things with hiding. We can even do things like this. Let's go switch off our existing components. Now we can just see what's actually being estimated. Now the ceiling stays on, sorry, the roof stays on at this point because the roof spec is part of the estimate, but we can simply hide that bit. And there we go, so that's all the stuff that's been estimated so far. And you can see our staircase from downstairs. Okay, it's very, very handy, especially if you're doing quite a complex renovation job where you've got all sorts of things being built, to be able to just hide the existing property components and show the new components that are putting into an existing property. Obviously with a new build it's very straightforward, you're estimating everything, but with attic conversions and renovations and extension jobs, quite often your drawing will be a mix of existing and proposed. And this is quite a nice way of you being able to split the two up. Okay, right, so this is my, just have a quick run through the rest of my attic options in here, see if there's anything else I want. Do I want a purlin? No, I don't. You could have extra labour for cutting out roof structure. Of course, if you're putting in, when you're putting these upstands in and fit in the back, you might, of course, take some roof structure out. That could be an allowance of labour for the fact that you're going to take some tiles off for the guy who crawls out the back of here. Of course, you're probably going to make an allowance price. You can have a scaffold on one side or both sides of the roof. So you've got that. If you're doing a structural upstand, which of course you're going to be fitting in there, and of course we've got the option of steels, you may well be putting in some padstones or engineering bricks. So I think I'm going to put some engineering bricks in for my steels. I honestly don't know if that's correct. Over to your guys' expertise for that side of things. Of course, you've got things like solid bridging, etc., so you can put all those extras in. I'm happy with my attic tool over here that I've done everything I need. So the next component I want to put in is some windows. So I've got, now actually tell you what, let's just neaten this up again. Let's go back to my layers. Let's just hide my coloured ceiling and my sloping ceiling. Again, just makes it a little bit neater so we can see where we're at. Now I'm going to put some veloxes in, and I want to get them in the middle on this side. So this is my big bedroom. I'm going to put 2 big veloxes in. So to get them in the middle, I'm just going to take a quick measurement, and to do that I'm going to use the measure tool, and that is Control and M on your keyboard, and I can measure 1 point to this point, and that gives me a length of 4395. A quick bit of calculator work. 4395 divided by 2, so 2197 is my middle point. So what I'm going to do is put a construction line in the middle of this room. So let's have a vertical construction line. I'm going to hover over this edge wall and press the letter R, which puts me into relative mode. And if I then press the right arrow, I can say I would like to draw this 2197 to the right of the line I'm hovering over. There we go, and that's the middle of our room, which is handy. So when I put the veloxes in, I can now actually pin them on this line in the middle. Okay, I could do the same on the other side, but I'm just going to get lazy and just sling some windows anywhere on the other side. So now we're going to go back up here and we're going to have a look at our windows, our roof windows. I'm going to put some quite nice wide ones in, I think. Let's go with 1340, 1340 by 1398. We've got tops and central pivots. I'm going to go with one of these central pivot windows. Click Finish. It wants me to select a roof eaves line, so that's important. If you want it on this side of the roof, you select this eaves line. If you want it on the other side of the roof, you select this eaves line. So I'm going to start with this eaves line up here. It will then ask me for my flashing kit, and then the height to the top of the window. So I'm going to leave this at 2000 because I think this should line up with my upstand quite neatly actually, with 45-degree pitch. Hit Finish. Oh, as if by magic, perfect. That was sheer fluke. So position that window there. And if I want another one of these, if I click on the window, so it's selected, I can go right click, draw using this specification, so that will actually repeat exactly the same window. Select my eaves line, same flashing kit, same height, position the window over there. Click this window, right click, draw using the specification again, click my eaves line, same flashing kit, same height, position this window over here in our book dumping area. And one final time, in our bathroom. Click Save. Have a quick look at our 3D model. And you see it's all starting to look fantastic. Okay, so the last element of our conversion, of course, is we need to apply some treatment to these end walls, because at the moment they are probably bricky or blocky and not very nice. So to do that, I want to create some rooms using the Room tool. Now I could do survey all rooms, but what will happen there is it will actually create rooms all over the house. So that's a bit too much information for what I want here. I just want a couple of rooms doing, so I essentially want 1, 2, 3 rooms. So I'm going to start off by doing survey room, and this option here allows me to survey an individual room. So I click the button, click over this room here, and there you go. It's surveyed the room. And what that does is it looks for walls and works out that that there is a room area. I can then click on my room, and I'm going to change the name of this to my attic bedroom. Job done. I'm then going to survey my second room here, which is my bathroom. So I'm going to click Survey Room, then click into my I'm just left clicking my mouse in the room, and it will survey that, and it will find this room here. So I'm going to rename that and call it Attic Bathroom. You don't have to rename it, but I just think it makes it a little bit easier. Okay, don't worry about the heated thing in brackets. That's a component of the forthcoming SAP module for next year, but it's in there by default. And then the third room I want to do is this room here. Now I'm going to click my survey button. I'm going to click the mouse in the middle of the area, and you'll see that nothing happens. And the reason for that is it realizes, oh no, it's done it this time. Yeah, that's really clever. Sometimes it doesn't like it because it sees there's a hole in the floor, and so it won't survey the room for you. In this case, it's actually been very helpful, and it's actually picked it up. I was about to do an explanation, and it's blown me out of the water. That's fab. So now, if you do have an option like this, because we've got a room essentially that's not a real room because there's a break in it with a staircase, what you sometimes have to do is you actually use this button here, which is the draw room option. So if I do Control Z just to undo that, I'm going to draw a room. Let's just pretend it doesn't pick this up very well. So I'm going to draw around the perimeter. And again, I can do the S button to square that off. Oh no, I can't. I'll have to use the C button to close it. There we go. So I've drawn around that room to manually create the room shape. So you do sometimes have to do that if you have a strange shaped room. The most typical one tends to be where you've got a lot of open plan, or you've got things like staircases interrupting a room shape. So again, I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it Attic Landing. Now, the reason we've done this is because we want to do wall and ceiling renovation tasks, and we do that all through the Room tool. Now, if I just nip to the downstairs, if we were doing some renovation work in one of these other rooms, we could survey a room and we could then do all sorts of different renovation tasks to lots of different walls within the room, which is quite handy. This job, we really are just interested in this end wall because these stud walls in the middle are new, and of course our upstands are new. So it's just these end walls that we're after. So I'm going to do this room by room just to show how it works. So I'm going to start off by clicking on my attic landing, go into wall and ceiling renovation. Okay, you can see the shape of our room here, and up here you can see the different types of walls we've got. So you can see we've got a brick wall, we've got a couple of stud walls, and we've got an upstand. So if I click on the brick wall, we'll see in our graphic below, that's the wall on the left hand side. So that's the wall we want. So I'm just going to make a quick note that that is wall number 1. So I'm going to choose a task for wall 1. I'm going to go to plastering. And I'm going to go with a skimmed plasterboard and battens with insulation, so we can improve the value of this wall, because often the gable walls, the insulation doesn't always go to the top of the house. So if we do skimmed with batten, obviously it would make it a better wall. Obviously this will vary from job to job. If you know you've got a very well insulated house, you might just be going with some dot and dab, etc. I'm going to go with battens on this one. Click next. I made a note before that it's wall 1. In a later version, this screen will actually include a graphic showing you the walls, but at the moment it doesn't, so that's why I just quickly scribble it down. So it's room wall 1 that I want. Click next. Let's give me the area of it, 4.3 square meters. Click finish. Click OK. And if I do that, I can see that I've actually now done that part of the wall. So now I'm just going to repeat that process for these other few walls. So let's go to the attic bathroom, my wall and ceiling renovation. On the bathroom, you can see there it's wall number 3. So again, let's go plastering. Skimmed plasterboard and battens with insulation. Click next. It's not wall number 1 I want this time, it's wall number 3 I want. Click next and finish. OK. And there we go, we can see that one's done. And then this final wall over here. So I'm going to click on my attic bedroom. Quickly repeat that process. You see here it's wall number 1 that we're after. Plastering. Battens and insulation. Wall number 1. Next. Finish. OK. And the job done there. So you can see the little areas that you've renovated visually. So now we've got all our end walls done. And that is an attic conversion. Obviously there's further tasks involved in here, things that are not particularly specific to the attic. If I just go to architectural, there's probably going to be some plumbing and some electrics, because there's going to be, someone's going to want some light up here, no doubt a computer, etc., and a 50-inch TV, and of course the bathroom will probably want some way of the water escaping. So you would then go through using your plumbing tools as usual, and your electric objects. So you might want to put some, let's just put some plug sockets in. Let's go with some renovation plug sockets. And there we have. So I could do an upper floor double socket to existing walls, so that could be going in the end, or an upper floor double socket in a stud wall. So we might be wiring these into the upstands, for example. And I can either draw these to position them, or I can just say I want a quantity of them to make an allowance. Okay. And what that does is obviously that costs for your plug socket, and of course the cables and etc. going towards the ring main. You've also got options for chasing walls. Probably not too much chasing going on in the attic, but if you were doing this elsewhere in the property, you might be doing a bit of renovation elsewhere in the existing property, you could be doing some chasing, etc. Okay, and that is our attic conversion completed. As ever, we have on the estimate side our estimate checker, so I can click on this, see if I've got anything I need to have a look at. I've got a few reds here, so let's have a look. So my skin plasterboard insulation, I've not done any sundries. Let's have a quick check on that, see if there's anything I think I've missed. Do we need any beading, remove radiator, refit radiators? No, I don't need any of that, so that's great. I can go back to that estimate checker. I can say no. That's absolutely fine, and these two are probably the same. I've got a staircase. I've not done any sundries on my staircase. Let's just go and check my staircase. It's my square edge plasterboard and my decoration. Good point. So maybe I want to actually have some decoration. Let's have 5 square meters of plastering and decoration. Go back to my estimate checker. It should now have picked up that I've made those changes. It has. So I've only got one left to look at. It's my cold flat roof of Simbers. And it's asking for an area of ceiling. Of course, the area behind the upstands, we don't have any ceiling, so we don't need to worry about that. So we're fine. And our commonly used calculators, of course, things like design costs, cleaning, scaffolding, of course, I've not gone into this evening because we're not looking in too much detail at that. But you would, of course, be putting in those sort of costs, site, etc. You're definitely going to have a scaffold cost, potentially travel, all your normal sort of prelims, so you need to be making an allowance for that via these buttons up here in the estimate menu. Subcontract, etc. Provisionals. So once you're happy with the cost of your estimate, as per usual, you can make a build program. Okay, I'm just going to leave this with one of each type of labour. Obviously, if you increase the labourers, it will reduce the build time. There's a little neat build program there. Obviously, I've not gone a full attic conversion here. There's still a few more bits and bobs to do. Obviously, things like the plumbing, electrics, etc. But that's the majority of it covered. You have your usual reports. So you can look at things like cash flow, your costs by different resource types. You can knock that off. Now I've finished checking. Good old profit forecast. Remember, this talks about the net profit only. So on this job, we're going to make about £3,000 after everyone's been paid and all the costs have been covered. And of course, you have your customer quote at the bottom. I've not filled in any client details for this, so it's going to look a bit blank. Obviously, if you filled them in at the start, it would have the details. You can put your company logo on. Dear sir, thanks for your inquiry, or madam. And then into the detail of your job, and of course you've got all different versions of the quote, and you can customize and make your own with a different amount of options displayed. And that is it. An attic conversion in about 50 minutes with a little bit of waffling. Obviously I did a bit of Blue Peter at the start to get the house ready drawn. So I'd say at this point, I'm going to put myself on mute for a minute. And if you guys have any questions, as I said, if you look at your little GoToMeeting pop-up box, there should be a little arrow thing somewhere which opens up a menu, and you can type questions. Feel free to ask away, whether it's on what we've looked at tonight, or anything else you'd like to know about BuildingWorks.